It's a coping thing. Like, it's like, okay, like your favorite artist isn't as big as you want her to be. So we resort to pretty privilege, not working. Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron, and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we are going to be talking about, can you be too pretty for pop? I know I just said that, and you scratched your head and you thought, what type of question is this? But contrary to popular belief, this is a conversation that has been coming up specifically through the guise of an artist like Madison Beer. Today is the day that I will finally talk about her. You guys have requested. But there has become this question of, is pretty privilege failing Madison Beer?
Your music only does well because you're pretty. That's just not true because you think I have pretty privilege. That's so wrong and messed up.
Especially in the entertainment industry, for women, looks are their capital. And looks have always propelled careers and have actually put people in the spotlight who are not as talented or deserving as other musicians or artists. And with Madison Beer, who has been in the industry for many, many years, has industry connections, tons of followers, and onlookers are wondering, why isn't she bigger? Why has she been surpassed by the likes of Billie Eilish, by the likes of Olivia Rodrigo, Tate McRae, Sabrina Carpenter, even Tyla? For some people, the only conclusion they can come to is she's just too pretty. I want to discuss today if this even makes sense. Is there any merit in this conversation when we talk about pop, or is this a cop-out? Because I do think this conversation is a bit ridiculous, but it's worth having it. Like, comment down below, and hit that subscribe button down below if you'd like to see more commentary content just like this. Thanks so much for watching, and without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. The term pretty privilege is something that has become a lot more prevalent, I would say, in the last 5 years, where people are openly discussing what it is, what it means. And pretty privilege essentially opens doors. It applies privileges because people who are more attractive are perceived to be more trustworthy, easier to look at, confident, and have more opportunities accessible to them because of how they look. According to this Forbes article, they say, quote, "Due to their looks and perceived abilities, social and romantic interactions become more accessible. Doors swing open and invitations are readily extended." In the industry, being pretty has been a benefit, and being seen is what the music tastemakers are looking for, particularly in female artists, because we know that a lot of men can kind of look anyway. And in a lot of cases, we've seen certain stars climb their way to the top based on their looks. Their talent, subpar, if not non-existent. But a pretty face can go a very, very long way because women are marketed by their looks when we talk about entertainment. So other talented and capable artists were overlooked because maybe they weren't attractive enough, all being affected by things like skin tone, colorism, hair texture, body type, factors that some people cannot control. What happens? They fade into obscurity or they never get the chance. So they're kept out of the gates of stardom for some factors that they can hardly control. And if you have these artists who aren't as conventionally attractive, they're often pushed to the side, right? Or overshadowed by prettier, more palatable and brandable artists. I mean, as a pop artist, the goal is to be seen. You're plastered over TVs, performances in front of thousands. And if you're a pop act, you're going to go potentially global. So looks are extremely valued. On the contrary, I also think this term has hurt women. Women who, quote, benefit from this privilege because their looks were their capital and was only valued. Women have been, time and time again, abused in exchange for careers. I mean, we look at the Cassie situation with what Diddy has done to her, what he did previously. He preyed upon her as a teenager, and she wanted a career, stunning, gorgeous girl, and he abused her to the point where she didn't even have a career anymore. So we see cases in the industry where women come in, they're stunning, they're beautiful, they're marketable. Talent-wise, they're average, mediocre. But sometimes all a man wants to do is have control over you. So this is where women are harmed all the way around in these scenarios. So when having this conversation, I want us to not look at Madison or other artists as a villain, because that's not what this is. There's a lot of sadistic and sinister stuff that happened. We got to get into it briefly. A little bit about Madison Beer. You guys have been begging me to talk about her. Madison Beer hit the scene in 2012. She was posting YouTube covers. Testament of the time. Who wasn't?
I was discovered at 12 years old on YouTube. I was posting covers, singing some songs, and Mr. Justin Bieber saw one of them, and I was signed to him and Scooter and all that stuff, and it was it was a whirlwind. I will always be eternally grateful to Justin for the initial kickstart.
It's crazy because I just posted my YouTube video, and then Justin tweeted it, and then now I live out here, and I moved all the way across the country from New York.
That's a smash. She's gonna be a star, trust me. I think I love her, bro.
Her debut single Melodies released in 2013. And to be quite frank, I do remember Madison Beer kind of being on the scene, right? It was a bit of a moment and it faded. She had a debut EP in 2018, As She Pleases, a debut album, Life Support, in 2021, and her second studio album called Silence Between Songs released in September 2023. And she was also nominated for Best Immersive Audio Album at the 66th Grammy Awards. Really has been visible since 2013 to some capacity, and she has connections in the industry like Justin Bieber, who was the biggest pop star at the time, and Scooter Braun. So this gets into what happened and where people are starting to get this whole pretty privilege is failing her idea. No defining characteristics. She's been accused of cosplaying other people. You have to bring it up when we talk about her specifically. There have been a lot of Ariana comparisons, from album covers to hairstyles to music video concepts and aesthetics. And when questioned if she was inspired by Grande, Beer responded, quote, I mean, Ariana's been one of my favorite people forever, much of my career, and even just prior to my career. So I'm sure she's definitely influenced me a lot. She said, I'm sure. But I hate this narrative that's being pushed about me and her, that it's kind of like this competition thing. Like, this is someone I idolize and someone I look up to. And again, I don't know if it's as much as a competition as people are saying. She just seems very similar. Mind you, let's not villainize her, because to be fair, somebody like Ariana came on the scene and was being compared to an icon like Mariah, and it's flattering, but it did kind of set her up for failure at some time. Another thing people have been saying is that Madison's fashion and aesthetics are non-defying. Someone saying, quote, her fashion and aesthetics are reminiscent of generic Instagram/TikTok. And I'm honestly sure a lot of people have a perception that she's really just an influencer. She has 38.4 million followers, a crap ton. But Madison's not unknown. So I wonder if people are less concerned with her music and more concerned about her Instagram feed. I mean, she's a stunning girl. And there were people even saying, I hardly even knew she made music, or I've never even heard a song on the radio. I just thought she was an influencer. So you see all of these things compiling that are so look-centered, in identity centered, because as a pop star, it is extremely important to craft a unique image for the audience to connect to. And it seems like this is a point of contention. And when we talk about imagery, we think of defining pop stars like Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Kesha, weren't afraid to look silly or have fun, theatrical, and even with the quote cuter pop stars, they clearly had a defining aesthetic like Ariana Grande with the ponytail and the cat ears and the half up, half down, the 60s aesthetic. You have Sabrina Carpenter with the little heart dresses, the bangs, the humorous outros. Tate McRae has really branded herself with this hockey, sporty, sexy, cool aesthetic, and Billie Eilish with the baggy, relaxed, stripped, understated, and laid back style. So their images are very carefully curated, and that's not to say that these artists did not go without comparison, but audiences seemingly have responded and accepted these aesthetics a bit more than I'm seeing with someone like Madison Beer. I think this is another reason proving that it's not just pretty privilege that's hurting her. As a pop star, aesthetics worth copying is a pop star's dream, or to look at a silhouette and say, this is her. Let's get into it. There's some folks saying, you guys are saying pretty privilege is failing her. It's not that deep. Her music is just sonically not interesting, and she's boring. Compiling a lot of what I've heard, she has a bland discography compared to her contemporaries, and her music has little defining characteristics that are true just to her. When I was looking at her albums on Apple Music, because I did do some research for this video, her album Silence Between Songs on Apple Music, most artists will have a lengthy bio to go with their album, to explain their inspirations, to kind of give listeners a more in-depth and introspective viewpoint. while they listen, before they listen, or after they listen. And when I went to her bio, her most recent album, it said, quote, "The former teen YouTube star grows up on her second album." And immediately I thought, what does this tell me about Madison as an artist? I'm sure you can Google it and find an interview, but it's best to get to the source. You're on a music listening platform. People are listening to your music. It should be right there. With her album Silence Between Songs, I also found out that she switched the cover art, and she clearly explains it here in this interview.
Wasn't that not the original one?
I Like, I literally, like, couldn't even look at it because it was just driving me up a fucking wall. And it's a cute picture, it's fine, but it is not the album. You listen to the whole thing. That is not what the fucking album is. All of these inspo pictures have all been in nature. They've all been, like, very natural, very stripped back. That is quite literally the opposite of what the other picture was. So I changed it.
As good as I think that she's self-aware artistically why that was a bad choice, to go out of your way, spend that budget to do a whole photo shoot, release that, rescind it, because it's the complete opposite of what the music sounds like. It seems like at the drawing board, artistically, there is a disconnect. And that doesn't mean that you always have to get it right the first time, but this further aids in the theory that as far as identity goes, she's kind of all over the place. I did listen to some songs, but if I'm being very honest with you, this is where I'm going to get lashings. I already know. Because I want to drive this point home. I don't really think that all of this has to do with being pretty failing her. From the songs that I did listen to, I kind of felt like I was hearing bits and pieces of other people. And it's not that the music is bad. She has a nice voice. She's talented. I believe she writes her music. But specifically her song Selfish, I felt like anyone could sing this. I could hear a lot of the contemporary pop girls on this based off of the critique of the audience, and then me listening by myself. I could understand where people were coming to this conclusion of a lack of artistic identity and a lack of image identity. I've also seen people express their disappointment in her performance skills, as if she doesn't really connect with the audience. And for a pop star, there needs to be something captivating about you, at least in a performance aspect, to reach main pop status or to reach global stardom. But if I'm being honest, I wasn't like sonically impressed. Now we gotta talk about it, because the unrelatability, which I don't even think this is necessarily her fault. I talked about in my last video, we shifted into the relatability market. And I think that's hurt pop. I mean, people just don't connect with a hot pop star anymore. You can't just be pretty. You have to be giving substance. And I do think that Madison's music attempts to do that. I don't think her lyrics are just dense. But when we talk about outward appearance, let's unpack it. One thing about Madison Beer that has contributed to her unrelatability is she's been ostracized for being pretty. A few comments that I saw within the discourse of how they are perceiving Madison Beer included comments assigning her this mean girl trope because of how she looked. Someone said she looks computer generated and not real. Another person said she looks like someone who would bully the hell out of me. And if I'm being honest, this is not her fault. I don't know what y'all want her to do, like be ugly. Like, I don't understand that. But unfortunately, way marketing works is it sounds like it's isolating for a consumer base like today who cherishes relatability and seeing themselves in an artist. If the main people consuming your music are teens or young folks, and there's already an epidemic of body image coupled with social media and the perception of self versus what they consume, this can be a clear disconnect. And I do think that this is hurting her. When this girl has to get on the internet fighting for her life every day saying, I have not had work done, I just look like this, and people are upset with you, it's going to break that link of relatability.
First of all, unless somebody has lip implants, their lips are real. Filler goes away in 2 months on average. So unless I was consistently filling my face with filler in any capacity, it goes away. So yes, my lips are fully real.
I said, yes, guys, I got my lips done when I was younger, and I regretted it, and I hated it, and I got them dissolved. This is literally my fucking natural face. Don't you dare say that I'm giving girls eating disorders because they watch my TikTok. So should I not post? Should I just go away?
It's just because of the way she looks, let's be real.
Is it? I think that's such a fucked up, I mean,
Totally. It's fucked up.
No, I'm not, yeah, I know you don't think that would be okay, but it's like, is that where we, the society we live is people?
Yeah, it's called jealousy.
Yeah, I don't like that though.
Am I photoshopping this? I have an editor on, right? This is like my body.
And this is where I think people are bringing in this pretty privilege conversation. How is this hurting her? But somebody offered a very interesting perspective. Someone said, quote, I don't think pretty privilege has failed her, considering that her many beautiful pop girls and women who are considered intimidating, but I guess it's that she has a sharp type of beauty associated with how Hollywood depicts mean girls. The public has still been threatened by girls with the girl next door type beauty. Early Britney Spears is a good example, someone said, but I think that probably partially adds to the public perception of Madison. And I felt like this was a very balanced and realistic take, right? Now we're getting into the nuance of like different levels of pretty and how it's perceived. And I do think in a way that is hurting her to some capacity, because like I said, I don't think the music is that revolutionary. I think that there are some people who are obsessed with like catching her, like humbling her, or people just honestly being insecure with themselves. Like, how can somebody look like that? And it's kind of like she's being punished in a way for looking as she does, as if there's a resentment. But it's very interesting to me because we've discussed for so long the privileges that pretty people get when there's so many talented people who will never make it because of their looks. And now we're flipping it because some of you guys just don't understand why someone like her, who historically has been propped up on a pedestal, who historically should have it all. I mean, she can sing, she can write, she's very pretty. I think some people are trying to cope. But is it a bad thing that like people aren't as entertained with just being a pretty face? Not necessarily. I mean, maybe we'll be more open in entertainment to people who look different, and it's already happening. Doors are opening. And I think it frustrates you guys that like looks aren't everything, or if that's not like tantalizing for people and that's not hooking people. This conversation is so confusing to me because I do feel like it's a coping thing. Like, it's like, okay, like your favorite artist isn't as big as you want her to be. So we resort to pretty privilege not working when it's historically been people who don't have pretty privilege have been hurt by not even being given a shot. You see what I'm saying? Like, somebody like Madison is still very successful. She's made it extremely far. So she's already an anomaly compared to 90% of people who pursue music. Yeah, I have a hard relationship with this conversation when years ago you have opposite comments being imposed on someone like Susan Boyle, who was harassed and bullied for not being pretty enough, even though she had a very talented voice. She was a unique talent. So for someone who has been so visible like Madison Beer with connections to Justin Bieber for years and Scooter Braun, it's humbling for people to think that she has everything it takes. But somehow she's not at the top of the pop food chain. And I also think that it's important with the pretty privilege conversation that we do not judge a book by its cover. Because someone outwardly looks gorgeous or pretty, we naturally attribute positive qualities to them. And sometimes we negate any struggles or hardship or trauma that they have been through. The same Forbes article I referenced earlier said, quote, highly symmetrical faces are not only seen as attractive, but also positive indicators of health and personality traits such as sociability, intelligence, liveliness, self-confidence, and mental health. Subconsciously, you see someone who looks like her or another gorgeous pop star, and you put these like positive traits to the point where you guys can't even hear them out or acknowledge the fact that, yeah, they've been through some stuff or they've had issues. So Madison Beer, again, is another example who has struggled with suicide and has struggled with trauma and depression. And it also doesn't help when like y'all are like, no, I swear you've had something done. Like, you're picking her apart. In part, that judgment a bit. Like, people look how they look. It is what it is. Y'all are mad at people for getting surgery. You're happy when people don't get surgery. You want people to admit things, and then when they try to admit it, you tell them they're lying. It's this never-ending cycle. So for celebrities today, for pop stars today, it's rough because it's like, what do people want from me? And when we have phones, more people have opinions and it's louder. So you have so many consumers coming at you with different angles, like, we want you to be real. We want you to not have surgery. We want you to be messy. We want you to be pretty. We want you to be clean. We want you to be dirty. Like, it's a lot. And I think there's a case of this going on here. in conclusion, what should an artist like Madison do? There's been artists that we talk about in the industry today and previously who I think were stunning, gorgeous, but let's say their talent on a scale was kind of mediocre. I look at somebody like Saweetie, very likable, but people find a disconnect with her music. It's just not that great. But what's carried her in this industry is how she looks. The ones that suffer from a disconnect from pretty privilege, as some of you guys are saying. I personally think that this is a bit of a cop-out. I mean, there's artists every day who suffer from not being seen because they're not attractive enough, right? Or they're just simply not conventionally attractive. So many talented artists get overlooked every day. So it's hard for me to feel horribly bad for someone who's made it very far, you know? Let's be real. Are they really suffering from pretty privilege? Or is their music just simply not entertaining enough? Like, comment down below, guys. What do you think of pretty privilege in pop music? And hit that subscribe button down below if you'd like to see more commentary content just like this video. We are on the road to 50K, so hit that sub button if you have not yet. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching, unless if you're mean. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.